Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Among the biggest political news in the country right now is no doubt the case of the Federal High Court's decision pronouncing the sack of the governor of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, his deputy Kelechi Igwe, along with 15 lawmakers in the state over their defection from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, APC. The court's position in plain language is that the votes that got these politicians into their respective offices are votes that were cast for the party under which platform they contested and not for themselves as candidates. And so the votes cannot be transferred to another party of their choice. Now, following the judgment, the PDP had nominated candidates to take over from Umahi and his deputy, asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to issue them with certificates of return. Don't forget that another court, this time the High Court of Ebonyi State, had reached an earlier verdict where it ruled that the governor and his deputy cannot be removed from office on account of their defection from the PDP to the APC. The judgment came before that of the Federal High Court in Abuja. Now, INEC says it is confused on the next line of action to take, saying it has been served with at least 9 separate orders and motions from courts of coordinate jurisdiction regarding the case. After several consultations now, INEC has decided to suspend further action on the matter until the appeal process is exhausted and there's a clarity from a superior court. And you can bet that this matter will ultimately get to the Supreme Court. In a related development now, the Supreme Court has upheld the deregistration of 22 political parties by INEC. The parties were among the 74 parties scrapped by INEC in 2020 for failing to win any political office in the last general election. Now, the parties had won at the Court of Appeal, which reversed their deregistration and ordered INEC to restore them as recognized political parties. But of course, INEC had appealed to the Supreme Court, challenging the decision, which of course the Apex Court has now reversed. Joining me on the program right now to discuss these issues further is Festus Okoye, who is the INEC's National Electoral Commissioner for Information and Voter Education. Mr. Okoye, thank you very much for joining us on the program. I mean, 2 issues here. Let's start with that of Ebonyi State. Tell us more about how you arrived at the decision that you took at INEC.
Well, you know that constitutionally and legally, the Independent National Electoral Commission is a constitutional body established by the Constitution. Under Section 287, subsection 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the fundamental law of the land, we have been mandated and we are under a constitutional obligation to give effect to orders from properly constituted courts of law because in the commission, we don't have a judicial division of a high court, and we don't have a judicial division of a court of appeal in the commission. So we give effect to court orders, but we have to give effect to orders that are very, very clear, and orders that are consistent, and orders that are not contradictory. Our challenge is that we have orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction on the same thing. We have one judgment saying the governor and the deputy governor have been removed. They can no longer continue to function. And we have another order saying no, they have to remain and continue to function. And then we also have some orders restraining us from taking any further action relating to the issue. Not only that, we have an appeal pending before the Enugu Judicial Division of the Court of Appeal. And also we have an appeal on the same matter pending before the Abuja Judicial Division of the Court of Appeal. And we also have pending applications for stay of execution relating to the same issue. So we felt that it was prudent, it was rational, and it was also in the interest of justice, the interest of fair play, and also in the interest of our constitution and judicial process for us to stay action pending some clarity and also pending the resolution of some of these conflicting judgments by courts of coordinate jurisdiction.
Honestly, to be candid, I wouldn't blame you at all because, I mean, you look at the plethora of court cases and the orders and counter orders coming. I suppose you've taken the best decision. Now, Mr. Okoye, I have to ask you this. You're a lawyer yourself. apart from being INEC Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, you are a lawyer. Tell me, in your own, as a lawyer, in your personal capacity as a lawyer, what do you make of this idea of courts of coordinate jurisdiction now issuing orders and counter orders?
Well, you know that one of the new gains from
on the same case,
the review of the Electoral Act 2022 is the fact that in relation to pre-election matters, the high courts of the various states and the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory no longer have jurisdiction over pre-election matters. All pre-election matters will now be handled by the Federal High Court. So that has given the Commission some level of comfort in terms of the organization of pre-election matters before elections. Now, in terms of post-election matters, it's also very, very clear that it's only the election petition tribunals that have jurisdiction over them. And the time frame for the determination of all pre-election matters have been confined and put in an ambit by Section 285 of the Constitution. But you see, the case we are dealing with is not a pre-election matter and it's not a post-election matter. And that is why you have some of these contradictory judgments, because the high courts of the various states have jurisdiction, the Federal High Court has jurisdiction, but the matters have gone to the Court of Appeal, and we believe that when matters get to the Court of Appeal, there's a possibility that the chief that in the Court of Appeal we may have just one panel that we handle all these cases emanating from the Ebonyi matter. And then we will have one judgment and we have some level of clarity going forward in relation to what to do. But the issue of conflicting court orders from courts of coordinate jurisdiction has been a challenge. But we believe that as we go into pre-election matters, as we go into the 2023 elections, that the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 has taken care of that, and we may have some level of certainty, some level of clarity, and also some order in relation to handling some of these matters. And
I just suppose that the politicians would understand this, because I know politicians very well. They'll always look for one loophole or the other. But then, let's the case is now before the Court of Appeal. No doubt you'll be waiting for whatever the Court of Appeal would say. But there's also no question, even though you know, there's no question, so to speak, let me just put it that way, that this case will eventually end up in the Supreme Court. So are we likely to see a situation where INEC may have to just wait until there's a final pronouncement now from the highest court of this country before taking a decision on this matter?
No, we are going to follow the matters as they come. As of today, there are orders restraining the Commission from taking any action. There is a possibility that if those restraining orders are removed, that the Commission may take a decision. But as I pointed out, we have an appeal pending in the Enugu Judicial Division in relation to the same matter. We have also an appeal pending in the Abuja Judicial Division of the Court of Appeal relating to the same matter. And we also have motions for stay of execution pending. It is prudent and it is in the best interest of our electoral process for us to stay action, because if we take action now, it will more or less mean presenting the Court of Appeal with a fait accompli, and this Commission will not like to do that. And since the matters have already been entered in the Court of Appeal, we will just wait a little bit and see whether there will be some level of clarity and some level of certainty. But if the matters end up in the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court decides one way or the other, it will bring some level of clarity in relation to the jurisprudence around that particular issue.
Somehow I have the feeling that, look, the move INEC has taken is a smart one. Let's just suppose that, you know, you had only the case of the Federal High Court, only the judgment of the Federal High Court before you as INEC. And this judge has given you two options. Give candidates of the PDP a certificate of return. Take the certificate of return from those you have given. That's the certificate of return you've given to, for instance, the Ebonyi State Governor, and give to two individuals who will be presented by the PDP. Or organize fresh elections. I'm just wondering, how would INEC have been able to resolve that? Which option would INEC have chosen?
I wish I'm in a position to know. You know that the commission is made up of 12 national commissioners and the chairman making us 13. And definitely, if we had that option, we will go to the commission, present the two options before the national commissioners. And depending on the way the arguments go, since we have been given two options, it is now left for us to pick one of the options. Honestly, if you ask me, I wouldn't know which option I will go with. But I'm sure that before we go into such a debate, there will be robust debates, people will do some reading, and people will do some reflection in terms of the one that will serve our electoral process better. If giving a certificate of return to the people the court says we should give the certificate of return, we best serve the interest of justice, best serve the interest of our electoral process, we will definitely do that. But if going back to the polls, to give everybody a level playing ground will also serve the interest of justice. I'm sure the commission will gladly do that. But honestly, if you ask me, I wouldn't know in which direction the national commissioners may
honestly,
likely go.
I'm really happy for you at INEC that, that you just didn't have to make that decision, because it would have been a very tough one. And honestly, it would have been very tough. Now, let's talk about the deregistration of these political parties. And now the Supreme Court has sided with you. So, of course, it's just 22 parties that took you to court. But then this is the judgment is clear. Those 74 political parties that were deregistered stand deregistered. Am I right?
As far as the commission is concerned, the Supreme Court in the landmark judgment has given a final stamp of approval and a final stamp of authority on the powers of the Independent National Electoral Commission under Section 225A of the Constitution to register political parties that no longer meet the constitutional threshold or do not measure up to the constitutional threshold provided in the Constitution. So as far as the commission is concerned, their fate has been sealed. They cannot operate as political parties anymore. They can only operate as political associations. And going forward, I think that this is a lesson for all the political parties. That one, that for a political party to still remain on the register, to still remain relevant, that particular political party must continue to meet all the constitutional requirements for registration. And the political party must also field candidates and also meet the threshold for continued relevance. Any political party that does not meet this particular threshold cannot function as a political party, and that political party will be deregistered.
Are we likely to see new political parties registered before the 2023 general elections?
I cannot in good conscience say that, but in the next few weeks, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission will address the press and tell the Nigerian public whether there is a possibility of new political parties or whether the issue of registration of new political parties has been foreclosed. But under the 2022 Electoral Act, for a political party to apply for registration and be registered, that particular political party must apply at least 12 months before the general election. And that particular period has already elapsed. So no new political party can apply now and be registered. But if there were political associations that applied before the coming into force of the Electoral Act 2022, the commission will still look at those political associations, and if they did not meet the threshold for registration, they will be informed and we will not register them.
Would you have an idea of how many, for instance, of those political associations, how many of them would have applications before INEC at the moment?
Honestly, I do not know the number that have applications before the commission at the moment. But I know that as at almost 2 months ago, there were, I think, 102 of them. But what most of them do is to send what we call expression of interest to the commission. And then if they meet certain requirements, then the commission will now ask them to formally apply for registration. So as far as I know, and as far as 2 months ago was concerned, what we had was the expression of interest by so many of those political associations.
Because it just would be It would be like back to square one if you would have to register 100 and something political parties after registering 74. Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC's National Electoral Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, thank you very much for talking to us, and thank you for your time.
I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so very much, sir. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.